Come on! Michael. Hey, why can't I hear you?
Hello, it's me.
Oh, it's you. Okay, thank God. I was like, I spent so much time on this.
My mic was muted.
Yeah, classic. It's always something, right?
Yeah,
Oh my God, Mike. How's it going, my dude?
pretty good. Not bad. Although it's pretty hot in this room. Summer's really, really going crazy.
Yeah, do you not have AC at your place?
I just in my room.
Oh, that's right.
I'm in the office right now, so nothing here. But I have just been like straight working in my room because it's like very cold in here and there. In here it's very hot.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely need that. The summer is like in full effect right now, and like there've been a couple times that I've like just like been outside or like taking the dog for a walk, and I'm like, God, I'm almost thankful I'm not playing tournaments in this right now, and I'm like thinking back to all those tournament days that are like 100 degrees and muggy and out on some like turf field, and you're just like, no.
I went outside for 30 seconds on Sunday, and I'm like, I'm good. I think I'm good.
I think I got all the vitamin D I could possibly need. We're bare minimum. We're golden here.
Chris,
Oh,
I love your beard.
thank you. This has been my quarantine project.
Yeah.
Uh, First question that I have to ask you off the bat,
Hmm.
with quarantine here and the
Hmm.
ability to grow ridiculous facial hair and not groom to your best, what
Hmm.
is your possible best excuse for not bringing back the man bun right now?
The real excuse. All right, so I give like a bad excuse, or I don't know. The real excuse is I think my girlfriend will hate it, and I
Yeah.
think I've asked it. I've said, should I bring the man back? She's like, no,
No,
but
that'd be
but
fine.
I'm very close. I'm like kind of close. Let
You're
me.
flowing a little bit.
I got like a little. I could get the top knot back.
Yeah,
Play with
yeah.
Andrew Card.
Yeah, I was gonna
Well,
say you could do the little card pony. You
it's
could pull that
yeah.
off.
Well, because I went to get my I went and got a haircut like the second day it was back open,
Yeah.
and I guess they took off a lot that time. But the next time I went, I was like, all right, I want this on the sides, just trim the top, and I always just let them go with whatever they say trim.
Mhm.
Um, and she didn't take off anything. So now I'm like, okay, now I'm pretty close to, to man bun
Yeah.
again. I wasn't aiming for this, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, that's good. At least you're flowing. It definitely
Oh,
doesn't help that it's the hottest it is right
that's the
now.
thing. The other day I was like, I just kind of want to get this whole thing off my head. I know I'll regret it, but I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
I
That's
can't
kind of
believe.
where I'm at with the beard right now. I'm kind of like, oh man,
But
this is starting to get warm.
yeah. But yeah, looking back, yeah, I've only ever done beards in like November, December,
Yeah.
where it's like totally fine. But looking back on the man bun, not that I regret it, I kind of do, but it was just like I didn't do enough with it. I like when I would go to work, I would like not put it in a man bun, and then I would only put it in a man bun sometimes. And I was like, I just should have picked it. I should have just went all man bun or something.
Right.
I kind of half-assed it all the whole time.
Yeah. I
Will it
mean,
be back? Probably not, but there's a chance.
there's
There's a
always
chance.
yeah, but there's always a chance. Oh man. So what has this year kind of looked like for you? We had Skylar
Mhm.
a couple of days ago, and obviously, I work for him when I do these trade shows and stuff like that. So I know his job is like completely shifted with COVID.
Mhm.
What is what has COVID brought for
Yeah.
your Amazon situation?
So yeah, truthfully, it was pretty crazy and pretty stressful to start off because Amazon. If those don't know, I'm the Amazon business manager. That's my role at Spikeball, and Amazon kind of went crazy at the start of COVID. Like they shut down some factories, they stopped doing logistics. Like we logged in and we saw that if it was like March 15th, and we saw it said buy now and you'll get it in a month. And so it was kind of crazy scrambling about that. They
Yeah.
weren't they weren't taking any new inventory, and so once immediately it was like a panic of like what are we gonna do? And then it was a lot of uh, reacting to the changes because I'm like, okay, we can't do this, and then they'll be like, oh, you can do that again. So it's back to normal now, but there were like a good 2 months of like really kind of micromanaging Amazon because we didn't know what the deal was with everything.
Yeah, well, things were definitely like even just weird on the consumer end because I'm like, well, I pay you for Prime, so I get this in 2 days. I'm understanding that there's a global pandemic, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to hold you to it. But all of a sudden, these Prime things are saying, 5 days a week, and I was like, so when does this end?
So,
Because I was
yeah.
like ports of entry were messed up, and shipping was like a whole thing. And at some point, like I think in Trump's initial announcement of the shutdown, he was saying like no shipments were gonna come in from overseas, and but then he was like, "JK, didn't mean that." So I
Need
was like,
that.
"So what? Like,
Yeah.
what's happening?" I was like, "Your life
And,
must be a
yeah.
nightmare."
What we saw was so we did see like an increase. I would check like the cancellations rate because people would place orders, but how Amazon works is you don't pay until it's shipped. So
Right.
like there are like thousands of orders in there that are just like pending. And so I would have to think, I'm like, how many people do you think bought it and are like, I don't know when, like they don't know when it's gonna ship. And then a week later, they're like, where's my Spikeball set? And they
Right.
cancel their order. So our cancellation rate, I think, went up to like 15-20% for a while, which is like
Wow.
pretty high. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of also scary where it's like, oh, we're still doing well, we're still getting orders. But you weren't really. But we got through it and it was all okay. But it was kind of wild. It was a wild time. Everyone was scrambling.
Yeah. I definitely believe that. With
Mhm.
like so obviously your numbers have kind of recovered from that. Have you guys seen a bump
Mhm.
in anything too? Because I know like personally, like I'm buying everything on Amazon at this
Mhm.
point. And so I know,
Yeah.
obviously, you're probably not seeing as many sales in brick and mortar. So you guys seeing an
Mhm.
increase on like online traffic or?
Yeah, no, traffic has been really good this year. I think a lot of it, right? People are shopping on Amazon, right? We just see our impressions are way up even on Spikeball.com too, because people are forced to buy online. I'm sure there's tons of new Prime members and everything that instead of going down to their local store, they're just immediately going to Amazon.
Yeah, I mean that's been my first move with everything
Mhm.
here, and a lot of it's been house upgrades, and then it's been things to keep me busy, and so I mean I've even seen an increase of sales, like I sell sets personally on like Facebook or
Yep.
OfferUp and that stuff, and I've seen an uptick in that. So I was like, it seems
Mhm.
like people just kind of need something right now, and
Yeah, that's
everyone's
the thing.
like,
People
yeah,
just want to play, right? Like, uh, Spikeball and Roundnet are great things to use right now, especially for families, right? A lot
right,
of the stereotypical like family with high schoolers or middle schoolers, that's something you just play in your backyard. We play with people we don't know in groups, but most people play, locally or with their family or with their close friends that they weren't really social distancing with anyway.
right.
So it kind of makes sense, and it's pretty cool. And separately, like seeing recently the NBA players playing it,
Yeah, no, I
like
saw
it's
that. Yeah, I saw Dallas all over it. I was like, oh man, I want to be there. That sounds great. And then Skylar was reminiscing about playing with the Hawks back in the day.
yeah,
But it's cool that that's catching steam, man.
yeah,
It's so cool to see all
yeah.
of
And
it.
I think that's part right of like it getting in there, but I think also Skylar's like purposely sent a lot of sets down there.
Yeah,
Skylar was like, I think this would be huge for RoundNet. Let's throw some sets down there, and it's working. I think there's some WNBA teams playing as well, because and that was all. I think all Skylar just trying to get it in there.
yeah. Well, like I worked a trade show with him in
Mm-hmm.
2018, 19, I forget, but it was like in Indianapolis, and this was like
Mm-hmm.
a sports and fitness uh, trade show instead of
Mm-hmm.
like camps or like PE conferences. And he was like, yeah, this one's kind of like our like pet project that I'm kind of starting here. I'm trying to get this in the hands of like athletes. So a lot of this is not about like making a ton of sales. It's about making some connections and seeing who we can
Mm-hmm.
get who we can get to pick up a spike ball set. So we're talking to the NFL defensive coordinator for something, or we talked to the a guy he was like the hitting coach for the Chinese Olympic uh, volleyball team. Where it's like, how do
Okay.
we get the Chinese Olympic volleyball
Mm-hmm.
team to start playing this. And so that was like one of the coolest things. But he was saying like, yeah, it's kind of running in the background. Obviously, bread and butter is schools and bread and butter is, camps and stuff like that. And this is kind of there. But now, I mean, you can't do any of that.
No,
And
no.
so it's like, all right, what else is in the pipeline? How do I be relevant here, and how do I help
I know.
out?
I know. I think so some people are continuing to play around it and do stuff, but me and you haven't really been doing that. And
Yeah.
and
What's
thinking
your
back, it's been a very different year.
it's been a super different year. I mean, you and I obviously are two of the more traveled people usually, and now we're surely taking a back seat here. I mean, we've kind of mostly always traveled for the tour stops over the last couple of years, and then just kind of showed up locally and stuff like that. And now the tour stops don't really run at this point. So I mean that takes that away.
Yep.
What's kind of your thinking behind getting back to playing and all of that?
Uh, truthfully, I think I'm more on the conservative side about all this. I think it's a crazy. It sucks that we can't play, but I personally see round net tournaments, especially the tour series,
Hmm.
as something that's just the aspects of it that I think don't work right is that people travel from all over. I think that inherently right is a hard thing. I think the big groups is hard, and I think maybe you know we'll see what happens later this year. I think if we get into next year, uh, although I'm going to disclaimer, this is no real official talk. These are just my thoughts. I think it's more of like a, okay, how can we work it in a safer way next year? Maybe
Hmm.
that's more ridiculous. But really, I think we're in a tough spot. We don't have the resources to be like the NBA or something else like that and do uh, a bubble or anything like that.
Right.
Maybe we do want to do that with just 8 pro teams and just have a something. But personally, for me, I don't think we'll be seeing that big tour round anytime soon, or we should be, just because it's just the fact that it's a national tour series just brings a lot to, right? If we're talking about just a Massachusetts only tournament, that's a little different than, hey everyone, let's fly from all across the country and play. I
Yeah.
don't think that's as responsible.
I think you basically have said everything that I kind of am feeling with all of this too, where I'm just like, yeah, local. I just see local as such a different thing right now. Once you start bringing people from all these different areas, you're just asking for a super spread situation. Like I just don't want to be contributing to that. And what has been great in the midst of all of this is like local people have stepped up and answered and said, all right, we're going to put on events. I mean, I wish there was a little bit more in place to kind of keep that more
Yeah,
local and start developing a local scene instead of having everybody travel around. I think that would be great. I mean, I know everyone's hungry for it. Like, Lord knows I am. Like, that's all I want to do is
yeah,
like, there's a great tournament in Michigan this weekend. I'd love to go to it. I just don't feel great about it,
yeah.
and so I can't bring myself to do it yet. And obviously no judgment onto anyone who's deciding to do this. Like, everyone's following whatever their
Yeah,
state guidelines are
right.
allowing. I wish they were a little bit more strict,
Yeah,
but I can't
I think
pass off
so.
on that. But I can elect to not participate.
I think Harding's asking our thoughts on what's going on with the tournaments, but I wanted to say what's been really interesting to me is Chris and I both love Smash Bros. And
Yeah.
and so it's been what's happening in RoundNet and what's happening in Smash Bros. Is completely different. Where people in Smash are actually kind of shaming people that do go to tournaments.
Yeah.
Like that's a real thing. Like people are saying, if you go to these tournaments that are happening in a few states, Florida, etc., um, I don't want you at my tournament when I can have it again. And it's kind of been this. I don't know what it is, but the whole community is kind of like. I know they can play online a little bit, so it's a little different. But if you ask Ultimate players, they actually absolutely hate playing online.
Yeah.
So it's a little different, but they're all like, no, we're just not going to do this. We're going to have majors in like a year and a half, maybe.
Mhm.
And I've seen like some very, adamant people against that, which I think has been very different, at least vocally, maybe from the Roundnet community. I haven't seen many people speak against playing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like obviously the people that are playing, I mean people speak out about playing. Um, Harding asked on my thoughts. I personally am not too fond of the tournaments. As I guess being in a way they in a way they are. I could tournaments be done? Yes, but I think in strict ways. I think traveling from a long way, which is discouraged, I think I don't really like. As far as like, I don't know how strict the guidelines really are at the tournament.
Right.
Um, that's just my take on it, but I think that's kind of how I feel. I I it's not for me. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
that's not something that I see myself going to. Of course, I'm not perfect with COVID and everything. I still do my activities. I just try to be as safe as I can within them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same thing too. I'm not actively encouraging people to go anywhere. I'm not really drawing a ton of attention towards tournaments and encouraging people to go. But I'm not at the point of quite shaming people for doing it because again, like I just think it's so tough to tell somebody to that they shouldn't do something that like isn't like a requirement of them.
Right,
And that's
right,
why like,
yeah.
that's why like I wish we would just nationally mandate masks. That'd be great because then I could be like, "Yo, wear your mask." Like
Yeah.
friendly reminder, wear your mask. But like, when all
That's
this
different here in Massachusetts. Everyone 99.9% like adoption rate here in Massachusetts.
yeah,
Like
no,
everyone's wearing their mask.
yeah, it's huge here in Chicago too. And it doesn't matter what suburb I go to. It doesn't matter if I go into the city. Everyone's complying. The only time you're not is if you're outdoors and you feel like you're going to be able to stay 6 feet away from
Yeah.
people you don't know, and like that makes a lot of sense to me. The only time that I'm not doing that is when I am practicing, and I only do that like once or twice a week. And I've stayed in like Chicago's on a phase system. I know every state's on like different things. So
Yeah.
like once we got to we just went to phase 4, and that allows us to gather in groups of 25 or 50, I forget. And I'm like, I'm gonna hold at phase 3, which was 10. So I'm only practicing in groups of 10 or fewer. Just because I mean, all these states that have gone to phase 4, phase 5, didn't do anything. Like they're all the ones that are climbing right now, and so I'm just kind of looking ahead. I like Lord knows I want to get back to the
Yeah.
gym too. Like
So
I hate
so that's
home
one thing
workouts.
is I'm back in the gym, mask whole time,
Oh my God.
and wiping down meticulously. So
Yeah, to me that's
but
just not
but
even
I
worth
think
it.
like
But
yeah, it's pretty tough. But right, that's something that I do. Right,
right.
it's similar things. If I just for my sake, I'd be comfortable like playing round net, but I'd probably play in a group and wear a mask.
Yeah.
That's just me, and I think you're right. Same thing. I don't want to tell people what they can and can't do. Will I be participating? No. Will I be hosting tournaments? No.
Hmm.
That's just that's just how I am. That's my take.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, but on the positive end of things, even if we disagree with at how these are being run in some regards, it has been really encouraging to see people step up and see some of these community projects take place. Like I was talking to Taylor about Fuego the other day. Like that's totally cool. Like having something that an independent TD can just like a tool for them to just run some things so much easier. Like that's the stuff we dreamed about back in the day. And actually, I think it was like in 2016. Is it Top Score was what we used to use?
Yep. Top score.
Yeah, Top Score. I remember. I think it was Thomas Summers was saying like, "Hey, we want you to try out this like self-reporting like score thing at your tournament via Top Score."
So
And
we
it was
actually
a
did that. We did
oh,
that in Montreal one year.
did it work for you?
The
Because for us, it was a
the tour
disaster.
stop that what didn't Golden Set win?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we used it for pool play, and it worked. I
Interesting.
think.
Yeah, I think this was like right in like I think like 2 days before he had like flipped a switch to like allow this happen or something like that, and I tried to get people to adopt it, and it was just not working at all. So we had to go to the backups on that. But like that already is like such a cool thing that's like come out of this. And, speaking of, all these Smash parallels, which we'll get into more, I'm shocked you brought it up before I did. But if anyone was going to, it would be
Chris,
you.
I've been playing so much Smash.
I mean, what else are you gonna do, But yeah, like y- you just seen all the projects that have come out of Smash and kind of, propelled the scene forward, and they hit huge with this, ability to play online being so much easier now for people amidst COVID. Like that's huge. But now, I mean, people are going like, all right, what was that pet project that I always wanted to do but I didn't do because I was traveling, because I was working, because I was this. Like people just have more time because they're working less, or they're, like you're not going to the gym, so like you've got 2 more hours in your day than you
Yeah, you
usually
got all
do.
over today. Yeah.
And so it's been cool to see all that stuff. Players Union, another thing. Like cool that really started to take a hold.
So I want to say, fun fact,
Yeah.
way back in 2015, I messaged, I think it was Skylar or someone, about starting a players union,
Oh
and
shoot, you
someone
had this idea
and
before I did.
2015, and they go, I think or maybe even before that, probably
Yeah.
2015. That's when I first got involved. And they're like, they're working on that, and then the thing they were working on was the board,
Yeah.
which it's like, I mean, yes, if you're back in the day and you have nothing, the board is the step. But
Right.
I was thinking about a players union way back in 2015. I'm sure many other people had the idea.
Yeah. No, I mean like the idea of a players union has been floated a couple of times here. Like I started a closed Facebook group with a couple of people back in 2018 in response to not being able to wear our jerseys at the first
Right.
ESPN tournament. And
Right.
so that's kind of the like genesis of that, and then Dylan's really just run with it in the last couple of months and gone like, no, I this needs to happen like full scale. And I started the group knowing full well that like I didn't want to run it or anything. Like you need such a level of organization that I don't have. And so it's cool that that's just kind of run with it, and people have been really on board with just propelling that forward. And so I think that's going to be huge here. And yeah, like a big point of discussion was just where do you draw the lines with, because like there is a distinction between the board and the a players union. So where
Right.
does
They're different. They're different.
right? So like can you be a part of both? Can you not? If you're an employee of the company, should you be allowed to be on or not? And so we've kind of drawn some lines preliminarily there. But I'm excited to see what that kind of does. Just because I think it's gonna clarify a lot about like what our roles are as players and what the company's role is, and ultimately what we're working towards together. And now it's a good time for players to kind of catch up to the level of organization that Spikeball's achieved over all these years. And with tournaments not running, like we just have time to do that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like kind of where it goes and what the relationship ends up being between, I'd say, the three, the players, the board, and the company. Maybe even fourth, some TOs in there, because it could, right. It's not just Spikeball; it's also all these other things. So I'm excited. Truthfully, I don't really know anything about it, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what comes.
Yeah, well, fortunately for you, I mean, you work for the company, but unfortunately,
I get it.
we definitely drew a line there. We're like, all right, if you're getting a salary from the company, like there might be a little bit of a conflict there.
I understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited about where everything's been going here. And I guess with all the like tournament stuff too, I think Spike House was one of the coolest concepts that I think has like ever been actually put together on its face. I'm like astonished at the like level of content that's come out of that. And
I'm super impressed with what Preston and Ryder are doing.
Yeah.
Like I don't say I'm not very public with, or I don't know, I don't talk very much, at least recently with COVID. I just I came back with a few podcast episodes and then it kind of snuck back in there. But I've been so impressed with the stuff they've been doing. I've only listened to a few podcasts, but I love it. It's just, it looks great, and it's just the quality you want. As a former content aficionado, I'm super impressed.
Yeah, no, I mean they've definitely taken it all to a huge level, and I mean that production value requires a certain number of people that you can really only achieve when you know have a
Yeah.
bunch of people in the same space. So they really took advantage of putting out all that content, and we're still seeing dividends from that. I think Grants just came out
Mhm.
earlier today, so I got to listen to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure you go subscribe there if you don't. They're doing they're definitely doing
Mhm.
some cool stuff. Um, in other Smash stuff, have you been following the more controversial stuff coming out of the Smash community with
Is
all
there any of
the
the
all the all the player bans
I
and all that
have.
due to sexual misconduct?
Yeah, truthfully, I found that I was so drained from all that.
Yeah, it was
It
a tough couple
was,
days.
yeah, it was really hard. For those that don't know, there were a lot of, stories came out as kind of uh, just a lot of misconduct. Like one example would be like it was a 19-year-old player I think was dating a 15-year-old player, and a bunch of things like that. And yeah, those are really hard few days. I know. So I'm less involved in the community. I'm more of a fan, but seeing some friends that like know some of the people, because right, it happened on a national level, but it also happened at a local level.
Right.
Like right, there was some like local New England drama, and it was hard to see that, especially a lot of my friends who were really close to a lot of these people,
Hmm.
seeing that stuff happened.
Yeah, so was Boston hit decently hard? Because like I mean, I followed everything with Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm less involved than you are, in the Smash scene here in
Yeah,
Chicago. But like,
yeah.
there was a kid I'd seen him at tournaments, and
No,
he's
our
he's now banned.
the main Boston TO is now banned.
Oh wow,
Yeah, yeah, the main Boston TO. So
for
it
for
was
for Smash Four or
yeah, the Smash Four Ultimate TO.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So uh, it was yeah, it was just a disconcerting few days, just
Yeah.
seeing all that stuff, and especially because right, I'm mostly a spectator through all that stuff. So right, I was more. It was kind of like watching just a scary movie and just seeing all these things happen, all these people be hurt, and deal with all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just one of those things where I mean, it was so hard to just hear everything and you felt for, these people that were, just clearly victims, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And unfortunately, I mean, you guys can, research this yourself, but a lot of this involved minors,
Mm-hmm.
who were, incapable of consenting to these
Right.
activities. And
Yeah.
so, one, you're just like you're shocked, but then you start looking back and you're like, there are a lot of young people at those tournaments, and I've I've gotten my ass handed to me by a
Mm-hmm.
15-year-old girl
Yeah.
at a Chicago tournament, and
Mm-hmm.
luckily she was there with her brother. It was actually Vro's sister, if you know Vro, the
Mm-hmm.
Marth player,
Yep.
um, and so you know, like you're looking at that and you're just like, oh my God, like that scene is just built for something to go awry like that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm looking at of course I'm always looking at the parallels between Smash and Spikeball, and luckily I don't think we're like there, but there's opportunity for all of that stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
it's unfortunate. I'm
Right.
I I spent a couple days actually like racking my brain going like, have I actually heard anything in
Right.
the
Like that.
in the
Yeah.
spikeball community about
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, any
Mm-hmm.
sort of sexual misconduct? And I haven't, fortunately. I think we're definitely smaller than the Smash scene here, but I think that's just something to really consider. Like we have a lot of minors that play and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and you even go back to like in 2016, like Dylan and I drove across the country with a 16-year-old Ryan Weiler and Matt Bonin and played a Connecticut tournament. And,
Mm-hmm.
everything's above board there and everyone's intentions were great, but um, I don't know.
But
Like,
they could not be. No, and it's okay even in those cases to say it's not okay, right? Like
yeah,
you can realize it's not okay, right? Like, you may have all good intentions, Chris,
right,
but you can still just say, "Hey, we shouldn't be doing this."
right.
It's
No, it's just an interesting thing that I think, people should start actually, considering.
Hmm.
And we've had things like that happen. Like the main one that came to mind was at camp 2016, 2017.
Hmm.
Like Hilltop wasn't allowed to go because they were
Right,
minors.
right, right, right.
But that was like, overnight and there was going to be drinking and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But like, I mean, I'm sure we were drinking when we went to that tournament with Bonin and Weiler.
Yeah, right, right.
Like those are so, where's I I don't know. I think that's something that
It's
like we should
it's
definitely
no,
be
it's a hard thing, and I think a big thing is thinking about the culture around it and how we respond if we hear things or if we do things or
right.
right like that night. Hopefully, right, I don't think they were, but right, if they are uncomfortable, we're not egging them on, right?
Right.
Something like that, right? You're like, right, if things like that and kind of make them feel okay.
Right, exactly. And so yeah, that kind of just, shook me to my core.
Mhm.
That was I mean that was definitely
Yeah,
just tough. And now now the ultimate scene's not going to look the same at all. Like you have so many
no,
top
the
players just
number
banned.
three player is gone, and it's I mean it's arguably a good time for there not to be tournaments because there's a lot of figuring out and recovering to happen.
Right. No, it's all just it's all
Yeah,
just wild.
yeah,
Any I guess to shift away from that,
yes.
are there any like positive aspects of Smash that you kind of see, um, you know, uh, in terms of things that we could copy with RoundNet or anything like that, either in how they're responding to this or
So
just like they've achieved a scope that we could only
so
dream of. So
so when you initially said it, I was thinking something else right outside of this completely. But something what I really like in Smash is um, I think one is that they like play tournaments all the time. Like I know roundnet's harder, but the fact that people go to like weekly tournaments or every other week and like play really hard, it's
mm-hmm.
really cool that like you can just get that right. For a lot of people, you just practice with your friends and then like once a month you go to a tournament. For some people, they go every weekend.
Right.
But right with Smash, it's like, no, everyone, we're having a tournament like this Thursday night. And I
Yeah.
think that would breed a lot of competition. And then secondly, I think every state and even every school has their own power rankings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like UMass has a power ranking, Massachusetts has a power ranking, New England has a power ranking, and then there's obviously the national top 50, gonna be top 100 PGR. And I think that gives so many people something to strive for. And I know PR is something, and so Premier and power ranking are something we have in RoundNet for people to strive for.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, right, like if the East RoundNet made like an East PR, right,
Yep.
I think that'd be something to strive for. Even if it was a Massachusetts top 5 PR, like people would want that. It
Mm-hmm.
could be teams, it could be players, but there's just so many little things to set goals for, right? Getting on the
Right.
PR and becoming premier are really they're hard goals.
Yeah.
I say I'm not premier player anymore, so I can say that.
I know it's
Okay.
crazy.
um, and I think right if one if it was created and two if it was accepted, like I want to like right. It comes with the territory. We don't really have many tournaments here in Massachusetts. If we had 3 a year, and then we would make like after every tournament, we would like name the top 10 PR players or something like that. Like maybe that would encourage someone to come out and try to have a good tournament, as opposed to it feels like a lot of times you're either playing for fun slash for prize money at a smaller tournament or for premier slash SRA points. I know
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to play for fun, but improvement wise, I think at a local and a smaller level, that would make a big difference on incentivizing people to want to get better inherently,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it's, yeah, you
Yeah.
know, and even beating PR, like, oh, I beat a New England power ranked team, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that, right? That doesn't mean that much, right? Because maybe they're not a real PR team, but
Mm-hmm.
like that could mean a lot to you as a local New England player.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is like super true, and it is crazy, when you're in these, I'm in the Chicagoland Facebook group, and they've got all these various PRs, and there's a bunch of them. But I do think that does give somebody who's just coming up something to strive for, and I think indirectly, like I like like in round net myself, like that's kind of what it was for me. Like when I joined Origin, like I was on the third best Origin team.
Mhm.
And when that started, that was even iffy. Like we were like maybe four, and it was like
Mhm.
I want to be like I want to go for sure three, then I want to go for two, then I want to go for
Mhm.
one, and luckily, I mean, we were better than everyone else in Illinois, so we
Yeah.
didn't really have Illinois rankings, but that was kind of an individual thing of like I want to be, like I want to be Origins 2 team. I want to be Origins
Mhm.
1 team.
Right.
And so, even when we were competing, nationally and stuff like that, when you lost in the round of 16, you beat you beat somebody, sort of good in 32 and you were getting, closer to getting to 8, you were like
Mhm.
I'm leveling up to that point where like maybe I'll see some growth
Right.
within there.
Yeah.
And I think it just gives you those intermediate goals because I think people get really really frustrated by the fact that they're not premier.
Mhm.
Like they want that so bad, and they're missing all the stepping stones that it would take to get
Right,
there.
right. It's not an all or nothing, right? There
Right,
there are little things that get you there.
right. Well, and especially when for a lot of people, like their only chance to qualify for Premier is like once, maybe twice a season at a tour stop that's like kind of in their area. If you're out in Utah, you might go to the Utah one, you might go to Santa Monica, and then you might not go to any of the other ones. So you
Right.
have like two shots at getting that, and it's so frustrating. And maybe you just don't even want to go to nationals because, well, if I can't, if I can't compete in Premier, then what's the point? I'll just try again next year. But you're not incentivizing people to
But
like
if you go
level
and then
up.
you win in the round of 32 and you're like, I don't know who that was. It was some random team from New York, and you're like, oh no, that's like the number 4 team in New York. You're like,
Right,
oh, cool,
right. Now all of a sudden you feel better about yourself, and
Yeah.
it's like just something cool. And
Mhm.
again, I think that also like fosters local communities like that
Right.
that kind of begets itself because in order to have a PR for the state of New York, New York has to organize and they have to run enough tournaments to be able to put out a PR that actually makes sense. And so, those are the kind of things that I'd like to see, just all that local organization. Like if we could see a Utah like a Utah round net situation in all these other states in the next 2-3 years, like I think you would just see a feeder program that's cultivating talent and cultivating people that are, willing to put the time and effort to actually succeed nationally too. It's just going
Mhm.
to propel the sport
Yeah.
forward so
And
much.
then I want to also say separately, you know, I think it's okay if they don't want to compete nationally,
Well, of
right?
course.
Right? Like there's this team, they don't ever go to tour stops besides the Boston one. This is just theoretical, but they like really want to be like one of the top teams in Massachusetts. They're not as good as Alex Daly and Mike White,
Hmm.
the best team in Massachusetts. Not
Obviously.
true. But they don't care about that. They just want to be like right? They just want to be third Massachusetts or something like that, right? And
Right.
they have no. There are a lot of people that have no interest in the national scene or the tour series, and I think we can still foster their competitiveness without making it an all or nothing. Like you're driving to New York City for Summer Spike, I would encourage you to do so, but that could also like that people could be as willing to go to 3 Massachusetts tournaments and 1 Connecticut tournament as going to like Summer Spike.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think it's also just creating, like a fan and like a true like
Mm-hmm.
community member that's invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I- I'm super casual about competing in Smash. Like, I haven't gone to a tournament now in like almost 2 years. I mean, I would have gone if this COVID stuff wasn't hitting. I'd be at a couple, but um, I, as much as I love it, like that has fostered, my fandom in the sport, and now I
Yeah.
follow it more, and
Mm-hmm.
it winds up bringing money into the sport because whether I go and buy things, which I do, like I'm supporting
Some merch.
players on
Yeah.
Twitch, and
Yep.
I'm watching, and they're getting ad revenue off of that, and so like you're supporting the scene by
Mm-hmm.
being an active part of it, and so you're capturing those people that aren't
Mm-hmm.
going to be the diehards that go to 18 tour stops like I do, and I'm not
Yeah.
asking everyone to do that. But maybe they get a little bit more invested in following, and maybe they actually tune in and watch the Chicago Grand Slam,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
don't participate in it. But I think setting up those intermediary goals for people, like I think like it's tough to break down you know all the small goals to get to where you want to get. So all these people that want premier so badly, like they don't have any other like concrete things that they can aim for outside of
And
like develop a sick cut serve, and so that's what they do.
right.
Um, and and so I think setting up those things is actually
Where,
super
you know,
important, like you
if
said.
your local community, maybe you're the best one. So I think it works both ways, right? I imagine in that case, right? Maybe in this small town, they have like 4 teams, right? Maybe they run a tournament every week or every other week. You know, the number 2 team every week just wants to beat the best team. And then
Mm-hmm.
the best team also, like, right, given they're not complacent, they're working on new things to so that they can win in the next level,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like, and just those little things, those will help them get better, right? Like, just playing pickup with your friends, you want to get better, but I think the tournament environment may help a lot of things.
Yeah, well, I think especially like just practice sets aren't the same as competitive sets. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
a different, like you learn different things from
Mm-hmm.
doing both. Like a tournament is a time to, go out and execute what you've learned in practice, and practice is
Yeah.
a time to work on something new. And
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes people, when they practice, they just go play competitive games, but they're not actually, working on new skills while they do that. Or you get the opposite of like, all right, this is like a low energy type of game. And so now you're not actually getting anything valuable out of it. You're just getting like
Right.
low quality
Yeah.
reps over and over again. So if you got more competitive reps and sitting
Mm-hmm.
behind a serve that like if they ace you, you might lose the game. And it actually means something that you lose the game because
Right.
like you don't get to keep playing the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
day. Like you just learn different things in
Yeah.
those scenarios. And so, creating an environment where you're able to
Mm-hmm.
get those reps is huge, and we just don't see that. I mean Utah has its tour series, and that's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Obviously, I think we every state needs to start a little bit more simple than that, but
Yeah.
having
Right,
something
right.
like that's massive.
We're way from there, but I think even, you know, we could probably start the stepping stones to get there.
Right, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
Now,
I did. Yeah, you got it.
well, no. Do you have anything else to say on this? 'Cause I was going to
Well,
shift.
I
So,
was gonna say I didn't follow much, so I don't really remember how I improved myself back in the day.
hmm
But I always like to give advice on how to improve. I think the best way, I think what do I say? And I've said this before, is don't get caught up in like trying to win every game,
hmm
especially, well, definitely not in pickup.
right,
Like, right, if like why'd you go for a dumb serve on 2020 to practice that, right? Like, if you go into a game, you try a couple flick shots and they're bad, don't just immediately go back to all of your pushes and your pulls. Like,
right,
it doesn't matter. I think you gotta get past winning in pickup. Sometimes it's only happened once, but we like played a game to like 100 and we didn't even keep score. We just kept playing points. And I think
yeah,
weirdly, like, that might help. Like,
yeah,
try your new things. Try this dumb shot, because if you lose, what? Well, that's it. Whatever. Take your pride out of it.
yeah,
That's my biggest. Right, and then smash the same thing. Why not go for that dumb edge guard? This isn't a tournament set,
right.
right? It's kind of, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, like I think a lot of times you have to learn how not to do something. And so if you
Yeah.
don't set yourself up for it, like that's how I never, take any reps with my left hand for 3 years. And
Yep.
now my left hand looks like I'm new to the sport. And so, like that was a conscious decision last year to stop practicing in order to win. That was just like kind of the culture that Origin had. And kind of going back to what I was saying before, like I wanted to be the second best team in Origin. So when
Mhm.
when we practiced and we were playing against those people, it was like, well, I have to win.
You want to beat them, right?
Right? Like I
Yeah.
want to beat them. But if I had taken the time to
But
actually
you'll
just
beat
work on
them by
skills,
not beating them,
right?
right?
Like you gotta have a longer
It's
vision,
exactly. I was going to say
outside of
longevity.
outside of
Longevity.
today and this week. Like
Mhm.
you gotta be thinking a year
Yeah.
ahead. And so yeah, like at this point, I definitely am only practicing to work on skills, and I go in with an idea of the things I want to work on and the opportunities that I'm going to want to um, or like the situations that I want to figure out how to hit out of, or the serve that I'm going to work on, and I
Mhm.
try that every first serve, and then the second one I'll
Right.
put it on so that everyone can play too.
Exactly.
Um, but
That's true. Hey, don't be a jerk who goes to pickup and rims it every time because you're working on a new serve. Try
right,
it on the first serve and then let everyone else play.
right. Yeah. There's definitely that stuff, but you have to be willing to just like lose a couple sets and lose to players that are, across
That
the net
you
from
think
you
you're
that
worse than, right?
right and but you wind up so much better for the experience
You'll end
and
up being better. It's very challenging to do so. It goes against all your pride and your ego,
hmm
but you got to get past it. And I don't know. I don't know if that helped me. The weird thing was like I got more better. I know I played a lot in the spike van, but
hmm
I got the best that summer without really even trying to improve.
yeah.
Because I think I was just playing for fun. I would do dumb shots and all this, but it kind of like worked out.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
don't know.
I think especially where our sport was when we kind of came up and we're rapidly improving. Like I think people are still seeing that, but at some point once you get to that point, like the learning curve is just different. Like it is
Mhm.
so steep at the beginning that like even like if you're just playing more and you see what other people are doing and kind of just replicate that in game while trying your best, like you just wind up like inherently getting good really fast and you don't have to break down these skills. But at some point you hit a wall and you're like, all right, I can do all these, basic things. Now I'm trying to do something a little bit more advanced, a little bit more situational, and you have to set yourself up to actually practice that like in a box. And so
Right.
if you're not doing independent reps at home, and you're just playing, sets, then you have to not be trying to win those sets. Yeah, that kind of comes into play right there for sure. But things were just different back in the day.
They were different. Sometimes even just hustling harder helped.
Yeah,
Honestly, but that's the thing back then is like, right, with how it scales, right? If I've played a little bit more than this person, I could have played like a third more than they've ever played, right?
yeah,
Like, but you get up here and you're not there, right? Like
right,
it's so granular. And the touches, right? Like if I have an extra 20 hours of touches, back then that's so important,
right.
right? Nowadays it's like, okay, people are so good. And I feel different talk about it because I definitely have am not as good as I once was. And even peak was never that great. But
I
it's still
mean,
something I was very prideful of, and I thought a lot about back in the day.
yeah. I mean, let's not forget you're a college national
Yeah,
champion.
yeah.
Let's not forget
That's
that
it. The round
before
of 64 Nationals exit.
well, we shouldn't
We
forget
we
that
can
one.
forget.
That one was tougher in 2015.
Yeah,
But even as recently as last year, before you got
yeah,
your head completely knocked in, you and Artie were doing some damage against Dylan and
true.
I, so you were playing
That's right.
pretty well. How's that all been? Have,
Mm-hmm.
have you like noticed anything with your head going forward or no?
Uh, t- totally fine as long as I know.
That's yeah.
I hope. I hope.
Yeah, I mean all those
Yeah.
things are subtle, and so
Yeah.
definitely stay on top of it. That's one of those things
Yeah.
like I really want to do right now. I want to get something done on my head. I don't know if it's an MRI or I don't know what all the letters there for that are, but I had a really bad concussion when I was in eighth grade, and
Mm-hmm.
I was unconscious for like hours. And I'm starting to feel like I'm like my brain's just moving a little bit slower, and I really want to get it looked at, but not having health insurance isn't great. So
Yeah.
I'm waiting to get that young health insurance. So subscribe, help me get a subscribe on Twitch, help me get that MRI. But yeah, no, be careful with it. Because I mean, especially, I mean, you just see everything out of all the other sports leagues. I mean, you were a big hockey guy before this, so I'm sure it's not the first time you've been, like hit around either. But I think you said that you hadn't been hit that hard before.
Well, yeah. So no, I did play a little football too, but I don't really remember ever getting that clobbered in football. Lacrosse, I probably had some bad ones, but
Uh,
lacrosse was more about slashes.
Right on the arms and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you said subscribe, so I subscribed.
Oh, sick. Thanks, homie.
Yeah, that wild Twitch Prime.
Yeah, hit those young Twitch primes. Oh, there you are.
Oh, there it is.
There's just a
I forgot you
delay.
to share it. I forgot you to share it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just to cover me and RoundNet. It's been an interesting thing over the past few years. I find myself like every once in a while have the knack to like want to improve and get better at it. But I think I mix up, the emotional desire to as
Mhm.
with like actually wanting to, like,
Oh, those are two very different things. I know
right?
exactly what you're
Like
talking about.
I would love to be good around net and I love doing cool stuff. But the truth is I don't really want to do drills or play that often. And I think separately, uh, looking way back, competing may not even be for me either. I think that's kind of a separate thing to realize.
Mhm.
Is like um, it was very fun, but I remember back in 2016 when I like kind of wasn't improving, I was just very down for like a long time of
Mhm.
just like not getting results, and I know that happens to a lot of people. So I
Yeah.
think it's a constant battle between myself of like, oh, we could go practice a little bit, we could start playing again, that would be cool. But then part of me is like, Mike, remember what's been happening.
Right.
So, but I find Smash kind of feels different because I think I treat it differently, and I'm really not that good, right? I think Roundhead's different because, right, I was decent and
Yeah.
am decent, so improvement's a lot different and feels a lot different than just when I go 0-2 and then instead I go 1-2 one week,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, I think those things are different. And I think that some people just aren't ready for that too. They want Premiere, but then they just think like, well, once I get to Premiere, it's just going to be more fun and I'll be competing. And it's like, no, once you get into Premiere, you get your ass handed to you for like the next year.
Yeah,
And you have and it's going to get frustrating. Like you're going to
right.
lose every pool play game or the majority of them, and
Mm-hmm.
then like that's just the experience of most
Yeah.
players. And so they
Mm-hmm.
strive for it, and then they're like, oh, maybe I didn't even want it. Like what was it 2017? um like Chicago, like all the like a bunch of Premier players were like, we don't want to play Premier, we're going to play Advanced,
Yeah.
because they were just like, skill gap's too high, it's not even
Mm-hmm.
fun. um and I
Yeah.
I think people need to like understand that like if you're gonna go for the top, like you're gonna deal with times where like it is uncomfortable how much you're losing and just not
Yeah.
as good as the person that's across the net
Or
from you.
our situation I remember back was like right 2015 we went from like no names to like we did well at regionals and we're in the power pool. So I was
Hmm.
on top of it, and then all of 2016 I was actually playing more than ever, but we kept losing to teams above us. We were like 11, 12, 13
Yeah.
and just kept losing to teams above us. And I was just like, right, obviously one side of you can go and work very hard at that, and
Hmm.
like I want to get through this plateau, but I think I wasn't on that side, and I was like, I don't care enough to keep doing this. I
Right.
think that's kind of where I was.
Yeah, well,
um
and I think people get that confused too, because like you said, like there's like what you want when you think about it, and then there's what you want when you actually go to do it.
mhm.
And so in order to get over that hump, like you might have had to double down and go to twice as many tournaments in order to
Mhm.
get twice as many round of 8 games to then break into top 4 again.
Right.
But that's taxing in a lot of ways, like mentally, physically, financially.
Yep.
And so it's like, do you want it? And if the answer is no, that's entirely fine. But then people go, like then there are people that make excuses on the other end, and they're like,
Right.
oh, see, this game's not even fun. Like if we change the rules, then then it'd be fun. And it's like, nah, you're just kind of like butthurt about the game.
Right.
And so I think people just aren't ready for that. And then also like, I mean, from your point of view, like I think it's tough to be at the top
Yeah.
of a sport and then kind of be falling
Mhm.
down. Like, I mean, I find myself in that situation right now. Like, last 2 years, I've fallen in the rankings,
Mhm.
as a player. Luckily, I think I've been finding at least enough success to still feel, good. Still making enough semifinals that I feel, good. Definitely fewer pitchers, especially with
Yeah,
CS and
it's
boisterous in the scene these days. But alas, you
well,
know,
that's where competition's hard,
yeah.
right? Like, truth be told, right? Like, some accomplishments I was like pumped about, and others I like didn't care or felt bad about, right? And I'm sure
Hmm.
sometimes maybe you felt the same way with some of your things.
Oh yeah.
Um, And it's like what you think you want is not always what you want. And I
No.
think that's kind of a part. It's hard to get into a little philosophy competition talk, but I think that's kind of what I found is like, right, some moments I'm like, I love this. Like, this is what I've wanted. I'm very happy. And
Mm-hmm.
then other times I was like, not. And then as well as also dealing with the loss, right?
Right.
We went from my favorite tournament ever, East Regionals, third place, to our upset in the first round. And I'm like, oh God, I got every emotion in
Right.
between those two, right?
Yep.
Not to bring up bad things from a long time or thoughts from a long time ago,
No,
but
I
right,
mean,
like that shows the duality of competition. And it's like, am I ready for this?
yeah.
Right? Right? You're going to want to win. Are you also okay with things? And I think that only applies to the high level, but I think to a certain extent, but it's also just like, hey, if right now, if you're going to a tournament and you like are really trying to get first or even second or even break into top 8, if you lose in the round of 32, how are you going to do? Is your day ruined?
Right.
And you know, if for me, I think that's what happened is, I think it was next year, regionals 2016. Um, we lost like round of 32, round of 16 to Gub, and like my day was ruined. And I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I stood, where I didn't like where I put a lot of value into wins and losses in certain things.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a thing that everyone, as they, right, if they watch this channel, they're probably a little more into Roundnet competitively. It's something you got to tackle on your own about, you know, where does your mind stand in the journey of Roundnet, like competing?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's just so true, and I think I've had to, cope with that over the last 3 years. Frankly, I'm almost glad that I wasn't that introspective and wasn't doing the personal work in the early days because, I mean, yeah, I mean, you want to talk about regionals to nationals, like 2016,
Right,
one
exactly.
wins Midwest regionals. Most people have them in, have Dylan and I in top 4. Maybe best shot to beat Chico, and we lose in the round of 32 to our 4th team out of Origin, who I've practiced with a zillion times.
Yep.
That was a tough day, and I'm glad I didn't actually think about that one too much and just went right into 2017 like, hey Drucker, let's fuck shit up. um, but yeah, I mean those things are tough, and I mean there have been so many tournaments where just day has been ruined, and I think like I've had to find a solution to that because I'm just still not willing to give up going to all the tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to find a way to be okay when I lose in 16,
Yeah.
when I lose
And,
in the round of
yeah.
8, or again just lose to a team you're not supposed to lose to.
I think that's the hardest thing is especially with the error of the power rankings. I get so I know, at least I know, so in my head about who you should beat and who you shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like in the game, you're like, I'm losing what? I'm supposed to beat these people. And it's like, it's okay. It's
Right, like they're also talented. Did you know that? And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're allowed to have a good day too.
And I think
I didn't think Skylar and I were gonna lose in the round of 16 to Buckman and Warren in Utah last year, but they're phenomenal players that played out of their mind. And like, yeah, we have a lot more experience than them in the aggregate. And yeah, I don't think anyone had that matchup going their way in their own bracket, but they put it together, and kudos to them. And then it's how do you not let that completely rock your world? And like that was one of those that like I had to really think on. And I think being in Utah helped because I was so excited to just be there and like go hiking, and I was spending like 5 days, but it was like, wow, like Saturday was miserable losing in 16 here, and I am here for another 3 days. What do I do? Because I've had a miserable Santa Monica where I let that then ruin my entire weekend. And I love Santa Monica.
And I think like I also think like you're totally allowed to feel like that. Some people just they do care that much and they are that competitive and they want. That was just not for me.
Right.
And that was just not something that I was happy with.
Yeah.
But I understand there are a lot of people that really do feel like that, and that's okay. Right. That's what drives them.
Right. Yeah. No, it's
I'm
just,
speaking
it's
to
just
the the casuals. I guess I'm a casual.
Yeah. Hey guys, you're allowed to be casual. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to just play around it every couple months when Alex Daly finally convinces you.
So, so are you and Alex Daly secretly coming back in 2021 to, steal a PR spot from someone,
I'm
or
waiting
what's
for.
the?
I think Dan's out of grad school now, so I'm waiting for him to start playing some more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal him from Brandon. Brandon's not that good.
Nah, he's super whatever, dude. I've never had a problem playing him,
No.
He's not tricky at all.
Oh.
He's pretty straightforward, not very dynamic.
He
God.
just kind of hits it one way every time.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah. He definitely doesn't have both hands flick shots and a fake toss serve that goes to his left hand. He definitely doesn't have that.
No.
God. That I remember first seeing that and was just blown away. I was like, "What is this sorcery?" Like
It is sorcery.
And like of course, he's right there with Dan just inventing new shit on the fly and doing it immediately. Which, like, speaking
That's
of,
the thing, right? Like Dan was so annoying. The what up top comes out and he immediately has like one doing tweeners with it. It's like calm down.
right, he's immediately doing it like 3 times better than Hilltop. And I and do you remember when we were in we were in Miami for that for that trade show? I was just sitting in the back trying to learn the what up top, and it took me like 2 days. It like destroyed my shoulder
within 30 seconds.
And then I go back and look at it, and I was like, I think I was like 30% doing it. Like, it wasn't even good. And then Dan's video comes out, and he's just like blowing it out of the water. Oh God, that kid. So scouting report on Dan. Now, so he's out of grad school, and
I think he's out of grad school.
Is he this Boston player that you were just describing 4 seconds ago that like is not interested in the national tour, but it just wants to be like the top player in Boston? Just like still get 4th place with Ezra at a stacked Boston tour stop.
Dan's interesting. I love him. I think it's just I think sometimes he just needs the push of like, hey, we're going to this tournament. Cool. And then he's nasty.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm sure if him and Brandon are still planning on playing together next year, I'm sure it'll be like, hey, let's go to this tournament. And Dan will say, okay. But I'm hoping out of college, although I haven't talked to him in a bit, that out of college he'll be able to go to more, obviously more money and stuff like that.
Yeah. Which speaking of college, as a former national college champion, how disheartened are you to see college not be able to run this year and maybe not even next year?
It's weirdly, I'm less torn up about it, truthfully, than the tour series. I guess that's not true because I feel really bad for all the seniors. I think that's it. As far as like running it, I just lump it in with the SRA where I'm like, it sucks.
Yeah.
But I guess I do really feel bad for the seniors because I think like if it happened to me, it wouldn't be that bad because it hadn't happened before. But like it has the history. It's been on ESPN. I know those people have trained a lot for it. So it's kind of sad. But truthfully, I haven't really. I was pretty upset for them at the time.
Yeah.
Kind of forgot about it.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we're in summer mode now, and they all graduated. But I remember, when all the graduation commencement speeches were happening over Zoom. It reminded me like. We didn't run this event, and again, like because that event like gained a lot of notoriety with ESPN being at the last one, like I don't know, just like that event has just skyrocketed over the last 3 years to something that really means something. And going to college nationals last year, just as a commentator and spectator, was one of the funnest things I did all year. And so like I didn't get to do that, and then seniors didn't get to compete. And they won't get the opportunity to do that again, which is disheartening. And then just in aggregate, like, colleges were really getting a really good momentum to them. We saw more colleges signing up. We saw more clubs like formalizing and being dedicated. And some of those seniors were leaders, and then they didn't really have the opportunity to pass off that leadership, formally to anyone.
Annoying break. Between, right.
Yeah.
Like with the whole thing, we had a lot of great momentum going. I was really excited about the 2020 season, and then it's just like,
Yep.
you're out of there. Hey, Ezra and I had some great plans for the rally, and just none of it came through.
I know. It's funny.
I
I still have a podcast episode downloaded. It was the last one you guys
uh,
did. I hadn't gotten to listen to it, and I was in New Jersey when it came out, I think. And then that's when like COVID hit like 10
yeah,
days later or whatever. So I
yeah.
was gonna listen to it on my way back.
Mhm.
But then the season was canceled, so I was like, well, I'll just I'll listen to this when it gets relevant again, and it's just less and less less and less relevant. So it's like,
I still cancel like things from my Google Calendar all the time.
oh, I didn't have the heart to take the tour series out of my Google Calendar.
Oh,
It took me 2.5 months to take it off the fridge. I had it printed up there, the nice graphic on a full sheet of paper, and I had to take that down because staring at it was tough. But every Saturday there's something in my phone saying like, hey, this was like last weekend was Nashville, and I was like,
yeah. Yep.
that's
So
tough seeing that going. I'm not there.
I just still delete them as they come. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what do I have on Monday? Oh, no, don't have that anymore.
Nope, nope,
That's
never
fine.
mind
We'll
that
keep
one.
that going into next year. Well, I know it's
Yeah.
reminder to donate to the fundraisers. Yes, I think we've raised like over $30,000.
Yeah. It was like 33K. Like
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. And especially for, again, a community that often complains about not having money. Oh, we're broke college students. We can't pay $10 to enter this tournament. Like, good for us for like coming together and like doing some good in the world
Yeah,
right now.
that's pretty great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but my expenses as a human have gone down like 70 or 80% by not traveling and eating out and getting Ubers
Yeah.
and plane tickets and
Mhm.
tournament entries and all that. So I actually find myself with more cash than ever, despite also being unemployed. So, so, so this has been a unique situation.
It's
So
income minus outcome, and your outcome's down.
right, yeah, yeah. Just but I'm squirreling it away for a rainy day so that I'm not as stressed come
Yeah. I mean,
2021.
I think truthfully, the saddest thing. So nationals is still TBD, of course.
Yeah.
The sadder one is worlds,
Oh
right?
God, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which
Taylor
isn't
brought that
really,
up the other day, and I was like, oh my
yeah,
God, I forgot about Worlds. We've just had so much trauma, you forget.
yeah, yeah. Everything's gone. Nothing matters. But I think I was really excited about worlds.
God, same.
Just uh, yeah, just wanted to meet a lot of people, see some fun, and I just think I kind of feel like I would just be a little bit of a wallflower and just kind of watch everyone um, interact.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't
I
have
just
much
kind of
choice to be a
excited.
wallflower though, because you're kind of Spikeball famous, and you haven't been to
Oh,
Europe yet, so everyone would, everyone's gonna flock to the podcast guy. Like, yeah.
I don't think I'm ready for that, so maybe I won't go.
I was gonna say, I think you just need to be.
I'll start an anonymous persona like Dead Mouse or something. Although he totally doesn't wear his mask all the time,
No,
so that I
no.
can just be a normal person there.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I'm still heartbroken about Worlds. I was excited. I mean, that added a whole new level of competition too, with with such a limited number of spots and only four open. Having to
Mhm.
compete for those in the early season was something that was really driving me, and I was looking forward to doing. And
Mhm.
so, putting that on hold was tough. But then again, like,
Okay.
I got to go to Denmark last year and meet some of these people. A lot of Europe went, and now there were just going to be even more. And Europe's grown so well, and the people there are so much more dedicated and so much more organized. And this was going to be super awesome extended world camp. and now
Yeah.
unfortunately we got to hold off till 2021, and
I just
let's
think
hope.
that if we can have it next year, or regardless, like worst, no, I don't want to say worst case because it could be way worse.
Yeah.
Worser case we have in 2022. I think it'll be even better than it would have been this year. So I think that's what kind of keep me excited.
Yeah.
An extra year of growth, an extra year of planning. I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
That kind of you got it. Keep going.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, there was just so much that was clearly put into it, and the idea of having a whole nother year to build upon that and do something even cooler, like the opportunity there is just
Yeah.
phenomenal. So I can't wait to see what's all done there, especially with, I'm sure that Jack and Nora are,
Mhm.
th- they're coming up with what the next thing is right now. They're kind of in the camp with Skylar, where like this isn't about keeping up and doing the day to day. This is about doing something for the future right now, and so they're probably paying even more attention to something like that,
Mhm.
which is just cool.
Yeah, it's just cool. It's just cool. I don't know other words.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
literally just
I
that
was
cool.
saying that reminded me that like right, uh, there's right the only this year's been a lot different, right? Just I haven't really been doing any round net stuff besides my job, which is Spikeball slash round net. Um, and I just realized there's so many people that I haven't been seeing, right? Like when
Hmm.
Preston and David post the podcast, I'm like, oh, like I'm like David.
Right,
I
like
used to see like there was a stretch where I saw David like every weekend for like 6 weeks,
yeah,
and I'm like, and you, where we would see each other all the time, and I'm like, now I'm just, you know, it's as if I've, left the scene,
right,
and I kind of and I just stopped interacting as much
right.
with it too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of did that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things that, like, I mean, looking back, I'm kind of like, oh, I mean, I should have, or, there are opportunities to, still connect with people and stuff like that. But, like, when all of this happened, like, I mean, I had to just figure out like what I even wanted to like do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like God, like I can't compete. Like what's the next thing? Like what do I actually want to like spend my energy on?
Yeah.
And part of it was just like it was sad to talk to people that like you knew you weren't going to see for a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I completely understand the whole, like just pulling back thing in general. I mean that, and at this point like, now you're, an employee and stuff like that. So, unfairly, I think, some of like Skylar's had this happen a lot where like his words are really scrutinized, and so yeah, you don't want to like
Right.
go
As
out of
far as
line and like
all,
share an
yes.
opinion that like
Right.
either goes against the company or says
No,
something that like, oh, like, and it's just
I,
stressful.
I think that's very real. I do. I think, personally, I also just feel self-conscious about posting a lot of the time. But I
Hmm.
think as a Spikeball employee and board member, and I think like I truthfully don't know what people think about me, but right, like I have been a prominent community member.
Right.
Um, I don't say that with anything. Just like I don't know how
No.
people think about it,
Yeah.
and like so I do feel that where I like am not. I get nervous about posting things and even contributing. I don't know. I know it's not that great, and I think I feel better when it's I'm okay when it's with content and things like that, but I'm not as confident posting in the Facebook group as I once was, where we used to run it.
Yeah.
Us spicy guys used to run the group.
Yeah. You guys definitely controlled, especially the meme narrative. You guys were early Spikeball
Yeah,
memers for sure.
yeah,
Um, which yeah, were definitely the good old days. But yeah, I mean part of that too. Like I think I used to post a lot more in there, but a lot of it, what I was posting was just like a lot more controversial and a lot less productive. Like I look back on like
mm-hmm.
at some point I want to go back and like actually unearth some of these posts, but like I remember getting in like like very very argumentative conversations about prize money and stuff like that in 2016, and um I'm sure if I read those back I wouldn't be proud of them right now. And so when
Yeah,
things start to get contentious in the group, a lot of the times I'm like, I just need to take a back seat here. I think people know my stance on this. And it takes a lot of energy to draft something that's not the first version of what you think in your head, that can sometimes be very divisive.
yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, I found myself kind of doing the same thing. And I think I overcorrected. I use my phone like 20% as much as I used to since
mm-hmm.
quarantine, which I think has been
Yeah.
overall good.
That's great.
Yeah, big thing that I'll recommend to everyone: turn off badge notifications and push notifications for everything except for one line where people know that they can reach you in an
Yeah.
emergency. Like turning off Facebook badges was like a
I,
godsend.
mine are turned off as well.
Yeah. I just don't know why I didn't think it was an option, but like God, it helps so much. You go on like you go on and you do a little bit more, but then you put it away for longer. And
Yeah.
so I definitely love. I definitely have enjoyed that aspect. I think that's one thing that
As if you
that
haven't read it,
quarantine's
I
pushed me towards.
recommend reading the book Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport.
Mm.
I don't follow it very much. I try. I go through little phases, but it's a pretty good book on the concept.
Give me the 4 second synopsis.
Essentially, the synopsis is do a 30-day declutter of everything except the non-essentials, and then really assess what things give you value, right? And I think the way you reassess it is say, okay, right, because you can get value from something, but not the whole way, right? Facebook gives me value because I connect with my friends. Well, is there a better way to connect with your friends that doesn't have the negativity of Facebook?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of right. You'll download an app that does one thing and you'll use it because it's one thing, but if there are better ways to do it, you don't really care that it's along with the negative. So essentially the whole book is a 30-day declutter and then assess if they have value.
I think I actually heard this guy on a podcast one time, and I think
Has
I was
like
interested because his whole thing was like 30 days and then add things back, but it's basically like, yeah, you go on Instagram because you want to keep up with your friends, but then you spend 80% of your time not keeping up with your friends. You're doing all the other features that
exactly.
Instagram has pushed you to do to stay on their app, and you're
You know,
not
would be
happy.
better like have a phone call with your friends once a month, right?
Right.
Like that's probably better.
Yeah.
Or it could be Instagram, but you're just deliberate with how you use it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's about reassessing your notions. Good
Yeah.
book. When I first read it, I was pretty strict about it. I still keep some tenets, but I'm not as good about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think just actually taking the time to think about it, like, sure, I get that, like, Apple now shows you your screen time or whatever, but really, it's just like screen time doesn't even matter. My screen time is really high. I use my phone as my workout app, so I have that on constantly while I'm working out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Was I using my phone for 2 hours?
Right.
No. Was I doing anything? Was I interacting negative with anyone? No. Um, I'm listening to a podcast. Like I get screen time from just listening to podcasts while I like do laundry and do my dishes and clean my house. Like I don't think that should count against me in this screen time thing. But yeah, like
Well,
I mean, yeah, assessing how you're using these things and what productive conversations you want to have, I think
yeah.
is actually huge. What what we'll end with this is what I've been asking everyone. What's one
Okay.
thing that you've picked up in quarantine that you weren't doing before?
Easy. I started cooking a lot.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
like that's the answer.
it's been one of my new favorite things. So my girlfriend and I subscribe to Blue Apron. That brings
Ah, you're a Blue
three
Apron
meals a week.
household. I'm a
Yeah,
HelloFresh
I get
household.
HelloFresh. So we've been doing. So I tried to do HelloFresh and they weren't delivering. So
Oh.
I did Blue Apron. Um, it's been great. So probably been doing that for like 3 months now.
Mhm.
Um, and cooking meals, and it's helped me. So we still do it. So it's made me feel a lot more confident cooking other things,
Yeah.
and it's just fun to do their meals. So uh, definitely that. I've loved it so much. I'm so happy I did it.
Yeah. No, I've enjoyed it too because I'll make the same four things over and over again.
Yeah.
And then I'll get sick of one of them, so I'll go down to only eating three things, or I'm just pretty simple like that. I keep my grocery budget
Yeah.
pretty simple, but Kathy wanted to do it, and I was like, I'll hop on board with this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been fun. I've picked up baking a little bit.
Okay.
That's been fun. Are you still doing the mostly vegetarian thing?
Yeah. I'm all vegetarian.
Oh, you're all vegetarian. This like
Yeah.
100% still.
100% vegetarian.
Wow.
Yep.
Still loving it? Still recommend it or no?
It's still going good. Truthfully, I don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
My girlfriend is pescatarian, so maybe there'll be fish on the menu soon, as just so she can cook for both of us.
Right.
But yeah, truthfully, I don't really think about it too much. It's just kind of like how I am. It's like it's just a long term habit.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched a lot of cooking shows that make meat look really good.
Yeah. What's your go-to cooking show? Because I picked up Top Chef and I watched like 4 seasons in a month. I
So
was
I'll
obsessed.
give you my three answers.
Yeah.
So one is the long time. There's 24 seasons. Guys Grocery Games.
Oh God, so
Yeah.
good.
On Food Network. You guys gotta check it out. Guys Grocery Games. 2, which I really enjoyed the season and a half. It has like 2 seasons. Ugly Delicious with David Chang.
Oh, I've heard good things about that.
I love it because it's about different types of food. So on an episode on pizza, he's a 5-star chef, but he also just talks about like the history of the food and the authenticity of it. It's about the food, but it's not.
Right? Like the story of food.
Yeah, the episode about like Chinese food is about like Chinese food in America and the culture around it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, super interesting. And then the third one, which we've been watching recently, is Somebody Feed Phil.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a producer on some TV show, and it's essentially super casual. He just travels the world and eats good food, but it's a good show.
Yeah, well, and then you can get your fix of traveling the world right now. Because,
Exactly.
God, I had so many plans of cool places to go and see. Among them, going to Worlds. Super excited for that, but alas. All right, well, dude, great catching up. Thanks for hopping on, as always, and let's keep in touch. And hey, get your Melee working so that we can,
dude, I tried
so that we can stream some Melee.
It was so frustrating and so fun. When I go back to Natick next month, I'll try on like my dad's PC or something.
Yeah. Well,
whereas the Mac is so frustrating. I know if I had a PC, it would work immediately.
Oh yeah, no, I did. It took me like nothing. And for how much a pain in the ass it was to set it up initially with like Dolphin like 2 years ago, like it took like 4 seconds. I was like floored, like Slippy like auto runs. It's crazy. Anyway, we won't bore people with this, but yeah, get that working so we can play some Smash Online with rollback instead of this horrible Ultimate netcode.
Hey, thanks to everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed my random rambles and got insight into me. It was very cathartic, kind of like a little therapy session with Chris. So thank you.
I'll take that as the highest compliment. That's great. I want these to be cathartic. All right. Talk to you later, Mike.
Peace.
Mike White, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for coming on the podcast, Mike. Always good to catch up with you. You're one of the ones that is a favorite for me to catch up with, especially when I'm on the road. And usually, again, I see you all the time since you travel all the time. And with not traveling, it's been weird to not catch up and not get some Melee sets in. So it was good that we were able to talk some Smash as well. Again, thank you to everyone too for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can also find the full videos over on YouTube. So wherever you are watching or listening, just know that you can find us elsewhere too. Be sure to rate and review the podcast. Really, really helps us out. 5-star review for a 5-star guest like Mike White would be appropriate. Be sure to follow the journey in real time over on Instagram and Twitch. On Twitch, you'll be able to watch these live before they get broadcast everywhere else. So if you want to, influence the conversation, feel free to come say hey over there while you're at it. Drop a Prime sub. We love you for it. All right, before I send you guys out into the world, a couple reminders. Let's go give something back to the RoundNet community. Let's go and work on self-improvement on and off the court. Let's go share our passions with the rest of the world. Tell somebody who doesn't know about Spikeball the joys of Spikeball and introduce them to the competitive RoundNet scene. And on the count of 3, let's all let out an enthusiastic "Let's go scream," because that's how we end the podcast every week. 1, 2, 3. Let's go, baby!